back to Riding the Pine. This is our review of Game 12 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks picked up their fourth win on the season with a 6-4 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes, improving their record to 4-4-4 on the season, and importantly, a 4-1-4 in their last 9. But before we get to the review, please do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And most of you haven't, so please do. It helps us out a lot, helps the algorithms of YouTube to drive traffic to the channel. Also, comment down below. Give us your opinions on tonight's game. Give us some opinions on any of the players that you want to talk about. And if you're like some salty triggered Chicago beat writers and you think I'm an idiot and you want to shout me out, well, not shout me out. Just, I guess passive aggressively shout me out on Twitters. Do it down below. I'd gladly come and talk to you and comment and have a civilized discussion down in the comments. But with that, I'm joined as usual by Tri-Sports fan Joe. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Kyle. Hey, finally, we get a win. We get 2 points. It's a good night. It's a good night when you get 2 points.
Yes, it was, and they overcame the disastrous start to the second period.
Yeah,
That seems to be a trend. They played. Last game was an anomaly, right? Where like the second period was kind of maybe one of their best periods all season, and then tonight we were like back to normal, where they just come out flat and teams just beat up on them. I don't.
right. And that's like what we had that such, and it's like such a good first period. I think we outshot the Canes 13-5. And I'm like, well, they're still one of the top teams in the league. You can't, just come out with your foot off the gas and just kind of expect to coast into a, 4-3 or whatever victory, just so to speak. And sure enough, they come out flat-footed and 8 seconds, in a span of 8 seconds of the first minute of the second period, they lose the 2-goal lead. So, but yeah, that's a trend we got to nip in the bud right away.
Well, I think part of that too. So I wanted to touch on that, and I think you even touched just with your I think you were commenting on the shot differential after the first period. I think a lot of, well, maybe not a lot of, but one of the reasons they came out a little bit flat-footed in that second period was they didn't really play that much 5-on. I mean, there were 3 penalties, 3 power plays, right, in that first period. They scored on all of them.
Yeah.
That was obviously a big and pleasant, continuing to be a pleasant surprise, considering where it was last season. But I think, when you're on the man advantage and the other team's hemmed in their own zone for that amount of time, you're wearing them out a little bit. So I think, in intermission, when the Hurricanes get their breath, I'm sure Rod Brindamore probably lit a fire under their ass. And as you mentioned, they're a really good team. So I think all of that kind of combined with, the Hawks that were kind of maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit just because they had kind of controlled so much of the play in the first that they got obviously killed in that early on that period. But I think even Jeremy Colleton had commented on it in the post game, which, by the way, I tweeted this out. Again, not a huge fan of Colleton, but I really like, and I want to give props to NBC Sports Chicago for their coaches corner that they're doing for home games. I like that so much better than the media asking Colleton questions, because you actually have players, whether it's Conroy or Jamal or whoever, that's on there and that's asking him legitimate questions about the game. And the questions are just so much better. It has a better flow. So I've been really enjoying that. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, no, and and a lot of people, including myself, many Blackhawks fans have, were we're constantly bashing Colleton, this and that, and this isn't the right guy, but and I don't want to give him full credit. I'm not on that train yet, but the guys are playing hard under him. I mean, we've seen it most of these games to start the year. I mean, outside maybe of the first couple of games, but the Hawks have been in games and they really haven't gotten, blown out of the building. I mean, they're playing hard, and I think we got to give some credit to Colleton for that. And I think even Debrincat made a quote tonight, saying that they're starting to buy into his system. So, I don't want to again go jump on the Colleton train yet, but hey, progress is being made there. So, and if these guys are playing hard under him, I want him to succeed.
Yeah, I know Kane too. I thought made a comment about Colleton instilling a work hard culture, which was a very interesting comment in several, I think, capacities. One, all of the vets from the last 2 years, I guess it's primarily been um, Keith and Seabrook. I think Taves is throwing a little bit out there. Kane has been oddly, I think, silent on it. But for him to come out tonight and suggest that, he's really instilling that hardworking culture, I think, that's probably speaks volumes, because I don't think Kane would say that if he didn't necessarily believe it. But also, it's interesting because that would seem to instill that when Quenneville was around, at least at the end, that wasn't that hardworking culture wasn't around. And I think there is something to that when I look back at the end of Quenneville's tenure. I mean, I had constantly commented, I remember, about whether it's Hossa, and obviously Hossa was injured, but it seemed like all the veterans were always taking the day off and they were never at practice. And it was just kind of like, do you guys want to play or win again? Or I don't know what you guys are doing. Like, if it were me, I'd be there every day because I want to, 3 rings is great, but I want more kind of a deal. Like, I
Yeah,
want
and I didn't know if that was just Quenneville obviously trusted them. He felt like they knew his systems, they knew what he expected out of them every night. So I don't want to push these guys past. Maybe he felt like they're veterans, they're getting on the tail end of their careers, and I don't want to push these guys maybe to more of a rigorous you know of season than they're already going through. So I mean, maybe he felt the more days off for them would be beneficial. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I don't know. I know in Colleton does give the vets the option of on a lot of days where the young players, and that was Quenneville's style too. You get the option, but maybe Colleton just does less of that. Maybe I don't know, but
yeah.
it seems like the veterans are a little bit more engaged. At least Keith's accepted Colleton's coach now, and maybe Kane's buying into it a little bit more. Obviously, Seabrook and Taves aren't around, so it's hard to say what their feelings are. But yeah, I mean, it's a great segment they got going. I hope maybe even when COVID's over, that maybe they can keep that going into next season and do it on the road as well. Because I just think that it's a lot smoother and a better segment than when he's in front of the reporters. But on that note, let's get more into the players. Um, let's talk about Lankinen. So, did you think he played bad tonight?
No, I that's what people were like. Again, you see all these kind of people come out and start bashing Lincoln because he let in 4 goals tonight, but I thought most if not all were not his fault. I mean, the one to start the second period, those 2 I didn't believe were his fault. I mean, they were just the one he gave up a rebound and it came right to him, but I think Murphy was pretty much puck watching and didn't see Svechnikov coming down the slot. So nothing you could do there. I mean, I don't know. I thought he played good, but I didn't think, like I said, the majority of the goals were his fault.
Yeah, I think just maybe one of them, which was the one with the rebound, is
Yeah.
all that you could really pin on him. But I do say so. This is interesting. I actually want to see Subban next game, just because, like, I was thinking about it, and Subban hasn't played in 4 games now. I think, yeah,
Mhm.
because Lankinen started 5 games actually, because Lankinen was in Nashville, the last game in Nashville, and then the 2 Columbus and the 2 against the Hurricanes here. So uh, I think Subban's due to get in there, and I think Lankinen could probably use a game off. I mean, I'm not, by no means am I saying Lankinen's not the starter or that Lankinen played. I thought Lankinen was fine tonight. I don't think that he played bad. His numbers aren't very good, but
Right.
you're going to
Yeah.
have those games when you have a high scoring game where they don't look good.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's why, like I said, it was just some bad puck luck, and on one again, it's like we're blocking shots, but they come right out to the opposition, where they pretty much have a 6x4 to bury the puck. So
Yeah, I guess we'll just to end with the positives tonight, so we'll go to more negatives, I guess. So you had mentioned you thought Murphy was puck watching. I didn't really have a problem with Zadorov tonight. I thought he was fine. And he played less minutes, which was nice to see. I thought DeHaan was awful again tonight, and he was a -2 as well. Granted, again, he had 3 block shots, tied with Beaudin for the most tonight, and we'll get to Beaudin in a minute. But I just DeHaan has to be better. I mean, I just that what was it, the 4th goal?
yeah, I think that was the one we were talking about. I didn't know
Yeah.
if where he was down low and Murph kind of came down to help him, or whatever. But I mean, yeah, that's like I said, it's like it's defense 101. You got one defenseman in the corner, you got to keep a guy in front of the net at all times. I mean, I don't know why the miscommunication was there, where both of them were getting sucked into the corner. But
Well, I think the reason I'm blaming DeHaan on that case is because he was behind, like he wasn't on the puck. I don't know who the puck carrier was for Carolina, but he was behind them, right? And the puck carrier is going behind the net and carrying the puck out to over the goal line, out and around the corner. And Murphy's already like that's my problem. Murphy's already in that circle or that side of the ice on the far end. So why DeHaan is following him behind the net, which is exposing that whole other side of the ice, because now the puck carrier is coming around. And sure enough, you've got that wide open net there with Lankinen obviously facing the shooter, and it's open season. So
right,
that was my problem with DeHaan is you can see where the skater's progression is going because you're behind him. So rather than following him in the play, you need to get in front of the net because Murphy's already on that other side and Murphy can take the man. So that was my problem. But either way, there needs to be more communication there. And on that goal, so this is something interesting that I've picked up on. So previously I'd mentioned, you remember like maybe the first 5 games or 6 games they had Murphy and Keith together, and
yeah,
that was not working whatsoever, and they changed the pairings up. DeHaan and Murphy don't work. Like it's almost like the 2 veterans. Like I don't know if it's like I'm gonna lead and captain, and then you follow my lead type thing. If that's the issue, like who has seniority type of thing, or what it is. But like Keith with Mitchell works a hell of a lot better than Keith and Murphy did. And Zadorov and whoever the rookie is that's in that night plays usually a lot better. And then I think based on the ice times I'm seeing, they're mixing and matching uh, as
I
well.
was going to say, who was Zadorov paired with? Was he with Beaudin?
Yeah, at least to start the game, Mitchell was with Keith. But I guess maybe that's a complaint. So, because I actually have positives on Mitchell and Beaudin. So let's go to Keith. And this isn't a negative on him. This is a negative on the coaching staff. Why the hell is Duncan Keith at 37 years old playing 28 minutes? And this is you're supposed to be developing players. And we're gonna go like there's a big problem with forward ice time, which we'll get to. But Colleton, we gave him props, a few minutes ago, but their management with time on ice with these guys is just horrific.
And I think it's just more, again, Colleton probably just doesn't trust his, and I know you want to gain him experience. That's the way you're going to be able to trust him. But at this point, it's about winning hockey games. And apparently Colleton and them feel that, Keith, which I give credit to Duncan Keith. The guy's 37, and I mean, he's still in tremendous shape for being his age.
Yeah, the guy is just a beast. I mean,
So, they still feel like he can go out there and give you more of a better chance to prevent, goals being scored against you. So versus, having Mitchell or Beaudin or, whoever, another rookie defenseman out there in that situation.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't really have, and see, that's what's fucked up. So they didn't even give, like, Mitchell and Beaudin are playing like similar minutes to what they did the last game, and then really every game they've played. Mitchell was at 14 minutes, Beaudin was at 11:45. It was, as I said, they cut Zadorov's minutes and they cut DeHaan's minutes, where that's where that's where Keith's minutes went up, and Murphy's been around the 20-minute mark, so maybe he got a slight bump, but not much. Most of it went to Keith. So you're not even taking, that's what's weird. You're not even taking the minutes away from the kids. You're taking them from Zadorov and DeHaan. And humorously, obviously, right? Like those are the two guys I think we've been focused on for defensive miscues. So instead of, like, if you're going to take the minutes away from them, why not give Mitchell an extra 30 or 40 seconds? Like just one shift. Give Beaudin 2 extra shifts. Like I don't understand the logic
Yeah,
there.
maybe in that, like I said, in the situation of whether you maybe if the Hawks are up 2 goals, or if they got more of a comfortable lead, or if they're down, maybe if they're down by 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You said that your goal is to win hockey games, which is true, but I don't agree that that should be the main uh what's the word or phrase, like the main objective. Like, because let's say, like we were talking the last review, right? Like, what if they make the playoffs? Well, now, so if you've played that way the whole season, you basically got to play that way the rest of the playoffs, which is going to be worse because it gets a lot tighter, right? And you've played a full season, so guys like Keith and Murphy, and Murphy, who has injury history, and DeHaan with an injury history, now those guys are worn down more, and the other young kids don't have the experience that they necessarily could have gotten, so you don't know, can they harness some of that load in the playoffs. So I guess that's where I'm looking at it. Like,
And it could be too the fact that, again, we're in a sprint of a season, so there's not really enough. And again, I'm sure that even though the Colleton and Bowman say that, oh, we're just kind of trying to go along here, we're trying to do what we can to win, but I'm sure they're doing everything they can to not just win hockey games, but to prove a lot of people wrong that we are a playoff team. And I know the players are going to come out and say, oh, we believe we're a playoff team, even though we, the fans and the writers and everybody in the league pretty much knows the odds of us being a playoff team are slim and none. But they're going to just continue to keep playing, and especially now, having gotten points in 8 of 9 games, well, okay, it's starting to put it in their heads that, hey, maybe we can do this. We can surprise some people and get into the playoffs. But I think, like I said, in the sprint of the season, you're trying to win as many games as you can. But maybe under a normal 82 game season, things are a little bit different. You got some room to kind of work the young guys in there when, whereas this year you're not getting that as much time as you normally would during a normal year.
All right. Well, I want to talk about Beaudin on a positive note. So he picked up his first point in the NHL tonight with an assist. So congratulations to him. This was his fourth game this season, fifth of his career. He played a minute 36 on the power play, and that's what I want to talk about. So on the was it the first power play goal that Janmark scored? Um, so, and I noticed this the other night too. I don't remember if we touched on it. I don't think we did, but so Beaudin was carrying the puck in right from I believe, the defensive zone through the neutral zone, and then he got it up to Kurashev, who skated it into the offensive zone, and then Kurashev, basically, I don't know what like this was uncharacteristic of the Hurricanes. All four of their players, like Kurashev, just took all four of them to the end boards. They all were skating towards there. There was one guy that was trailing, but even he was going over there. And then he got it to Kubalik, and Kubalik had all day to pass to Janmark, who was wide open, who went and scored that first goal of the game. But I think my point that I'm making with Beaudin is just the calmness and ease, and that he did have two giveaways tonight, but like he's quarterbacking the power play because he played a minute 36 in his minute or 11 minutes and 45 seconds tonight. And I just like the way he's played, especially only, being 4 games into the season, and obviously 5 total. So we talked about this the last review. To me, at this point, I'm totally on board when Boquist is off COVID, the COVID protocol list, whether he has it or not. I'm assuming he does. Once he's good to go, send him to Rockford so he can play 20 minutes a game.
Well, I'm sure that's probably what they're going to do. I would think, especially
So
he hasn't played, but he hasn't played in so long,
right?
So you're going to have to get him back acclimated to, action. And I don't know if you want to throw him, back in the lineup right away. Maybe, yeah, like you said, get him 2 or 3 games in Rockford, maybe before you bring him back up. I'm not sure, but
I think I leave him there for longer than that. I don't want to take until Beaudin does something. They're both they were from the same draft, right? And they're both, so I think they're the same age, 20, and between the two of them, Beaudin looks like the better player to me right now. And I think they've played about the same amount of games. Maybe Boquist has 2 more. I think maybe it's 6. But I just think Boquist has a confidence problem right now that we had talked about previously. And I mean, obviously, like you said, you want to get him back into game shape. So you want to send him, if you're going to bring him back, you got to send him down for at least for a few games. But I think you just send him down there to get him 20 minutes a game. Because if you view him as a top 4 defenseman, then you want to get him those minutes. And if Beaudin's playing fine, I don't see any reason that you would, until at least Boquist forces you to call him up, of putting him back into the lineup. I would think just for his development. I think even a lot of people have said that he was called up too quick last year. Just be good to get him down there and seasoned a little bit. But anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to. I'm not trying to give him a hard time because I'm trying to praise Beaudin here. But
right. And another, I think, bright spot. I mean, this Janmark deal is looking like a freaking steal right now.
yeah,
I mean,
I don't.
So it's third multi-point outing of the year. He's got 4 goals through 12 games this season. I mean, they said he had 6 goals in 62 games last season and 6 goals in 81 games the season prior.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Patrick Sharp, except Janmark's a little bit better of a two-way forward.
Yeah.
I think like Janmark's not a guy that you want to rely on, obviously, but he's a guy that can score. Like
Right.
he's the salt on top of the meal, if you will.
And like I said, if we're not in playoff contention come the trade deadline, and he keeps playing like this, I mean, we could get a pretty nice return for this guy. If I would think, I would hope, but
Well, that's the other thing too, because I was talking to other people during the game, and he's playing because he's only on a 1 year deal, so he's playing himself into a nice raise uh,
yeah,
if he
yeah,
continues playing like this. So that'll be an interesting thing
that's
because
the thing. Yeah, if he doesn't get traded, and
yeah,
I mean, I don't think the Black. I mean, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, I don't see the Blackhawks re-signing him because I
oh,
don't
I
know.
think if you don't trade him, I think you have to. And you got to keep in mind the Blackhawks have so much money that's not even playing right now. It's insane. So
Mm,
like Zach Smith alone is $3.5 million. So that right there is enough to re-sign Janmark because Janmark's already making like 2.5. So after one season of this, if you re-sign him, maybe 4.5, you give him a $2 million raise, or four, maybe 1.5 million, and you still got money left over. So like, and nobody big that needs to be re-signed, right? So you took care of Strome, Debrincat signed, Doc will be on his last year, and he's not going to get what he normally would have got because he's out this season. Boquist, same deal. So yeah, I think just right there you got money to spare, and then um, who knows what they're going to lose somebody in the expansion draft. To me, if I'm trading somebody, my first guy I want to move is to Han, because like I was just even reading the Hawks are talking about bringing another Czech defenseman over that they drafted in the 5th round a while back, Jacob Galvis, and it's like you've got all these prospects, man. Like what they got to play, and like you're gonna have so many defensive prospects, you're gonna not have room in Rockford. Like I mean, at some point, somebody has a veteran on this defense has to go, and if Seabrook's coming back too, this is going to create even more of a mess. So
well,
speaking,
right, and I think that's going to be all dependent on. I'm sure they're going to the management's going to evaluate these guys that are going to play in Rockford, and probably try to make a determination if hey, are these guys worth holding on to, or are they worth giving up? So
yeah, Soderberg, I don't think will be back next year either. So that's like another million you got there. They
yeah.
they will have to re-sign Suter, I guess, but I don't think Suter will cost that much either. Um, but yeah, Janmark has been a find, and I bet if you're a Dallas Stars fan or a Dallas Stars person, you're not happy. um, so I don't know. I wanted to ask you this because it's really perplexing to me. I'm sure if you've looked at the stats, you probably know what it is. Um, did I miss something, and did Khrushchev get injured? Because he only played 7 minutes tonight.
No, I know I was curious because the one, I mean, he had a couple of chances I know tonight, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, he played a big part in the first power play goal.
Yeah, so no, I don't remember him getting hurt or anything. Maybe yeah, I don't know what it was.
Well, he was -2, so I'm wondering if he must have been on the ice in the beginning of the second period, and he must have pissed Colleton off, and then Colleton must have benched him. But even so like a minute and 30 out of that 7 minutes was power play time. I'm assuming that was picked up in the first period. So, if you subtract that, that takes him down to what, about four and change. So he basically sat the whole game after the first period. That's
Did anybody ask Colleton about that?
I well, I don't think they did the guys on NBC Sports didn't. I don't. Did Colleton? Well, maybe you didn't see it, but I don't know if he spoke to the reporters or not. I assume he did.
Yeah,
But
I didn't see much of the post game tonight, so I'm not
okay.
sure.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, so maybe somebody did. But that was really odd. That's to me says that's an injury and not a benching because well, and he was well, I think I'd even commented on it in the second period where they had stopped the Suter on the fourth line experiment and bumped him back up to centering Kane and Janmark. And that was, I guess, a boon to me because I wanted, Suter up in the at least on the third line, if not higher. Uh, but I didn't even think to where's Khrushchev, and then yeah, like I guess I didn't notice that he wasn't playing, but that sticks out like a sore thumb. And then even more perplexing, with him not playing, Highmore only played 8 minutes. So again, back to this like time management. Even if you're benching somebody, and it's not like Kubalik had a good night tonight, but it's not like he played a shit ton either. He only played 15 minutes. Kane was at 23. That's about normal. Debrincat was up to 21, so that almost 22. So that's a lot. But 6 minutes on the power play. Um, Everybody else, Camp was way up. Maybe that was because of PK time. Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah, and Hagel had a really good game tonight too.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just weird. Although, so to get the elephant in the room out. So I don't know if you listen to this podcast and if you follow my personal Twitter account, you know that I'm not the hugest fan of Dominik Kubalik. And as I briefly brought up to start the show, there were some people in the beat that I chirp pretty regularly. One of them, he who must not be named, we won't even talk about. But this is John Dietz, and John Dietz spent all of last season and off season before COVID hit, really, and they knew what they were doing. Was that Dominik Kubalik was worth $6 million, and it's interesting that we're seeing this and this little flare up happened during the games against Carolina. So I had been bringing up on the show and on Twitter. Kubalik through last game had scored in one of the 11 games. That's just not acceptable for a guy who's supposed to be putting the puck in the net, especially when you're two of your bigger stars and Taves and Doc are out of the lineup. Obviously, he picked up a goal tonight and 2 assists, 3 points. Was still a -1. That's what happens when you're scoring all of your points on the power play, and I want to bring that up as well. But I went and looked, and not Kubalik has 11 points in 12 games now, and 9 of the 11 are on the power play, and Kubalik obviously. What does that say, right? What does that stat say? Well, that says he's been a big part, right, of the power play doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But it also says he's horrible 5-on-5. And eventually, barring a miracle, the power play is going to come down to earth. They're not going to score 3 power play goals a game, and they haven't been. They've been scoring about one a game if they're lucky.
Usually, one a game. It seemed like.
Yeah. So that's why he hasn't had these like 3-2. Well, he's had a couple 2-point games, but he hasn't had a big night like tonight, right? And I think that's concerning. Like that's everyone is like, oh, he's back. Let's give him the Masterson Award. And it's like, no, like it's one game, and it was all in one period. And on top of that, like when I go after Kubalik, it's not because I'm saying he's a bad player. Like I think everybody, I'm trying to state this because I think everybody thinks I'm saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm saying he's not worth $6 million, not right now anyway. And two, he doesn't do anything else other than score. So if that's your primary objective, what you're on the team for, and you're not doing it consistently, then you're hurting well, I don't want to say necessarily hurting the team, but you're not doing what you're here for. I mean, we've been talking about all season the Blackhawks need a goal scorer that, offense was hard to come by. And obviously they've been scoring a little bit better out of an output recently, but they're going to have another lull in the next, tonight was game 12. So we still got 44 games left. So they're going to have another stretch where they can't put the puck in the net, maybe multiple. So, you need him to score. And then on top of that, going back to what he's valued at, he gets, I don't know if you've watched this. I try to get other people to watch it. If he's on the ice and it's in his own zone, and he's a sandbagger. That's the term we use, and that's he's always the last guy at the blue line. He's always hanging around at the top, around the point in the blue lines. He's never around the boards, and he's always just kind of standing and skating around. Well, why is he there? He's waiting for somebody else to go and do all the work to get the puck so he can get out of the zone and go score. And that's fine, but that's the type of player he is. But if you're going to pay a guy a shit ton of money, he's got to do more than that, right? And I just don't see it with him. I want to, but, again, he had a good game tonight. I'm not taking that away from him. He's obviously helped the power play, not taking that away from him. But, when you just go through, it's you can't just rely on statistics. That's like the Buffalo fan that I shit on the other night who was trying to clap me back and saying Ian Mitchell was terrible because he was a -8. Well, humorously, that game, Mitchell was +3. You can't sit and just rely off stats when you're evaluating players, which is, I think, my problem with Dietz. I like Dietz. I think he's a good guy. I like most of the stuff he writes, but occasionally he just has these moments where he gets into the hype. And because Kubalik was awesome last season, and I think Hawks fans are, a lot of them, guilty of this. And when you have a bad season, you latch on to that, right? Because, that's the exciting thing that's going on. It's well, you have to look past the 30 goals from last year. You have to look past what he's doing now, the 3 points. When you're scoring all your points on the power play, they're mainly assists. He only has 3 goals out of that 11 points. And even the assists are secondaries for the most part. I think, one of them was a secondary again tonight. And I guess I pushed back on people like Dietz when he referenced me. He's like, what a beautiful pass by Kubalik. It was, but he sucks or something like that. And it's well, Kubalik didn't make that play. Khrushchev made the play. They even broke it down in the intermission by Conroy, and Conroy's an idiot. Khrushchev's entering the zone, and like I mentioned it earlier, I don't know what, again, Carolina was doing, but he took all their guys with him down into the corner, got the pass or the puck, passed it to Kubalik. Kubalik had nothing. There was nobody there to even intercept the pass. He had all day. And then Janmark, obviously wide open, all alone. That's the stuff that you have to look at when you're evaluating players and plays and stuff like that, and dig deeper than the stats. And even analytically, Duncan Keith had a great quote the other night. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant, but Powers and Lazarus had all of these comments on Corsi and Fenwick and all this stuff. And they'd asked Keith a question about it, and Keith's like, oh yeah, well, I was trying to get more shots off, so my Corsi went up. And he even said it, I don't know if it was a joke. I assume it was a joke, the way he said Corsi. But that's my thing. You get so involved with the analytics and then the stats and stuff versus just watching them play. And I guess that's all I'm saying. Just watch them play and then You know, if you still think that he's the greatest thing ever, cool. But, you know, like you
Yeah, and I
have
think
to.
they're mentioning that Kubalik, he's finding, he may not be putting the puck in the net at the pace he was last year, but he's finding, it's like he's saying they're, finding other ways to get on the score sheet. He had 16 assists, I think, in 68 games last season.
Oh yeah, when he's already got what, 8 now?
Yeah, he's got 8 already this year. So they're saying like the goals may not be coming at the rate they did a year ago, but he's finding ways to contribute on the score sheet in different ways. Yeah, I mean, we're not paying you obviously, $6 million to get assists. We're paying you $6 million to put the puck in the net. But if you're assisting on goals and you're contributing to goals, I mean, I know it's not worth $6 million, but realistically, if we let Kubalik walk, he probably would have gotten the same thing or more.
Well, he's only getting 3.7. So I think a lot of people like and that was my point. So like I even mentioned in the tweets, this one guy that apparently hangs from Dietz's balls that wouldn't leave me alone on Twitter because like I don't know, like I guess because Kubalik played well tonight that I was supposedly having a bad night, even though I'm Blackhawks podcaster and fan. Anyway, interesting, take on that. But it's like no, like he only got 3.7 million. And then I said all of last year, if I was Stan Bowman, to me, he's worth $3 million. So I think he's slightly overpaid, but not exorbitantly. But he's sure as hell not getting the 6 million that Dietz was going around. I mean, and then I guess like that's my point. If you're paying Kubalik $6 million, Soderberg's not here, Suter's not here, Janmark's not here. And I guess I got sidetracked. That was my point. That if you go and you give Kubalik $6 million, the last time the Blackhawks did something like that where a player had a really good season was Brian Bickle. And he wasn't even a good season. He was a good like 16 games in the playoffs. And what happened? Teuvo Teravainen is now on the Carolina Hurricanes, a 60-point-a-year player. Because you fucked up and you gave somebody a shit ton of money after they had not even one good season, just a little bit of a good playoffs. Like Bickle, and that was what was amazing about that contract at the time. Bickle hadn't done anything. Like, I don't think he even topped 40 points. And he'd been around since like the first cup, right? Obviously, he was in Rockford. Bowen was the guy I think that initially got called up. But I mean, I used to watch Bickle and Bowen when they were in Rockford. And, that's how long he'd been around. Like, that was back in 07, 08 that I was watching those guys. And you can't just willy-nilly because oh my God, get wrapped up in the hype and you got to pay these guys. I mean, like I said, you wouldn't have Suter. Suter has 7 points this season, and what? I think he's played in all 12 games. Had another assist tonight. Didn't get much playing time. They've demoted him to the fourth line for whatever reason. But you lose that ability to bring in those other players. So I guess that was kind of where I was going with it is you can't overpay a player who's just coming into the league himself, and then you screw yourself like they did with Bickle out of someone like a Teuvo Teravainen. And I guess like that's the end of the rant and the moral of the story, and why I'm saying like you got to watch the player, know the market value of what they're doing, and then read into the stats. Like, yeah, it looks great on paper when you say 11 points in 12 games. You're nuts, Kyle. He doesn't suck. Yeah, well, 9 of them are on the power play. No, he has no points or no goals, 5 on 5. That should tell you something. Tells you a couple things, like I said. But anyway, off Kubalik. Yeah, I thought there's a lot of positives tonight, right? The
Right. The
big
penalty kill was really good too,
yeah, the
and
penalty kill 4 for 4.
yeah. And like I said, we mentioned Hagel. I mean, he nearly scored, twice on those shorthanded opportunities. He had, Reimer robbed him a couple times, but he's getting really close to hopefully putting his first career goal in the back of the net. So,
You know,
um, but
what do you
really,
think
I
it
think
is?
the alarming trend that like continues though is, allowing the first goal. Now this is 8 of 12 games where we've chased the game, and now this is obviously the first time we've come
Yeah,
out on the right side of it. But again, eight out of 12 chasing the game. That's 67% of the time, trailing. You're not going to win a lot of hockey games that way. So
right. Well, especially not with this roster.
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the positives, and I guess I was going to ask you on the fourth line, and I've commented on it before, just to get your opinion as to what maybe they can do. So your Highmores and your Hagels and your Carpenters and your with Suter down there, Suter's been scoring, but like Camp and Highmore and Hagel, these guys get a lot of breakaways, right? And maybe not just breakaways, but they get a lot of good chances, and they just can't put the puck in the net. It's got to be more than puck luck, because like in Camp's uh, scenario or with him, he was doing this last year too, and breakaway after breakaway after breakaway, couldn't put the puck in the net. And when you have a fourth line that scores, like that completely changes a game, right? And the outlook. So like, is there something that you think they can do that would, whether it be in practice or something, to get them to actually start getting that offense out of that line, because it's creating the chances, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of like, now when Carpenter comes back, then now what do you do? How do you shake it up again? Because do you think Carpenter's out for the long term?
Oh, and I'm assuming COVID's not bad, or whatever. I think he'll be back. But you
Right.
got Walmart too, right? And
Right.
Walmart, I don't have his stats in front of me. I know he had like, I think 3 points in like 6 games, 7 games. So he's not a slouch either, and he's a PK guy that they brought in. I think Highmore for sure is out of the lineup. Um, I think ice time tonight would tell you that much.
And I'm confused by this because, with this whole COVID protocol kind of deal, now look at like the Avalanche are shut down, the Wild are shut down. But I was like, we had at one point 5 players in COVID protocol, but none of our games were postponed. So like, why apparently like,
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Why weren't the Hawks shut down?
but
Like,
I think I was following like Mario Tirabassi, and he commented on one, and he said, well, being COVID protocol doesn't necessarily mean they tested positive.
right.
So, but he said if multiple players actually test positive, that's when you have to shut everything down.
I don't
So,
even know if that's true either.
yeah, I don't.
So like, from I think it goes to the team. I think it's kind of team based. So like, if you a lot of the articles that were written when Carpenter, and then somebody else, wasn't it, that Beaudin, that were the initial flags, or the last two that were flagged. And it looked like, I think I even messaged you. I'm like, well, Sunday's game is over.
Yeah, but they
And
played. Yeah,
yeah, and I think it's not just whether you've got a positive test. I think the team can play into that too. Like, so with the Hawks, right? The Hawks are probably in a different situation than a lot of these teams, because the Hawks have so many young guys they want to play. So I think, like what Washington had some games postponed, didn't they? Like,
yeah.
and they had, it was Ovechkin and like, and it was Kucherov out too, and then I think another. It was like all the Russian guys had been out, and they all got
I
sat.
know. Yeah, they had gotten fined. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think if you're a team and you want to, as precaution, sit and delay your games, I think that's an option. I don't necessarily. I'm sure the league can force you to shut down, but I'm not entirely sure that like all of these shutdowns are league forced. I think some of it might be the teams just going, okay, we've got an outbreak or whatever we know is going on, so and so is with who, or, all that crap. And they just kind of make the collective decision to be like, yeah. I mean, it was like, even, was it Vegas where the whole coaching staff sat for a
Yeah,
game?
yeah.
Yeah. And they
So
called up their GM, I think it was a
yeah,
coach.
to coach the game, and that's why I was just like, I'm like, why are like, yeah, when we had 5 players in protocol at one point, and we didn't stop playing, but
Yeah, that's a fourth of your roster, right?
yeah, and some of these other teams now have multiple players in cold protocol, and they're calling off their games. So I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah,
But
I think it goes by situation, and then the team works with the league. But yeah, I thought about that too when I saw that Colorado had been shut down. Um, when's the last game of the season? Did you say it was April 8th?
I believe so. I mean, I'll check the schedule again, but I'm
Was it the
almost
third?
certain that
Because
April 8th. Yeah.
it
Uh,
just seems like it's coming up quicker than it is, or
or
that
no, I'm sorry. No, it's May 8th. May 8th is the last game of the season, the regular season. So,
really.
and I think the only reason they extended the season that even that far out is because I think they knew that games were going to be postponed for, because teams are obviously, they're not, there's going to be teams that enter COVID protocol, and, so I
Well,
think they did extend dates of the regular season to, accommodate for these games that are being postponed now.
let's see. That's the question. So the Hawks have played 12 games. The only other team in the division to play, that's the Blue Jackets. Everybody else is like 7, 8, 8, 10, and 11. So if this continues and other teams have to stop and the Hawks don't, if they get lucky, let's say, how's that going to work? Because so if the other teams, if they're going to, and I'm just going to assume that with the because if you look at the standings right now, even the teams that are 6-1, 5-0-2, 6-2, like the Hurricanes 6-2, they have 12 points. The Hawks have 12 points, but the Hurricanes have 4 games in hand.
Right.
So like if the standings are as clustered as this is, where everybody's right on top of each other, and the Hawks are finished with their season, are they going to just sit for like a week while these other teams finish the
I
schedule?
would imagine they would probably, yeah. I mean, they would not to necessarily say sit, but I'm sure the league would say, all right, you could practice, you can, go out there and, yeah, hold practices or meetings or whatever you have to do while these teams are playing. And Lord knows, I mean, they might, it may come down to, like these teams may either have to play to make up the games because,
Or they just
obviously,
forfeit some of the games?
yeah, or if the games maybe won't mean anything or won't affect position in the season, then probably, yeah, we'll play. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, so yeah, just to give a final stat on Lankinen, he had 30 saves on 34 shots, 882 save percentage. Obviously, like we
probably the first
said.
time his save percentage has been below 90, I think, probably since he started.
Well, I don't know what it was. It was pretty low that first game against Florida.
Yeah.
I don't think it was 900. It was 8 something. But again, I don't blame him for at least 3 of the 4 goals. So that's a pretty good night for him, in all due respect, in my opinion. But I do think Subban should start the next game in Dallas. Do you agree with that? Or do you think it should still be Lincoln?
I think I mean, Lincoln, and again, to me, it's like
he hasn't given you a reason that he needs like he hasn't shown like rust or that shown that he's tired or that he needs rest. I would still go with Lankinen. That's just me. And it's like to me you got to ride your goaltender until ride this wave until you can't anymore. And it's not to say obviously you start Lincoln in every game. No, he's not going to start every game. But I really like the way he's played, and the team has played well in front of him. So for the most part, I'd say for majority of his starts, outside of maybe one or two, but I would say until you give you let him play until he gives you a reason to not to let him play. You know,
Well, I
uh,
think too, one of the things I think you have to keep in mind with him is he's coming off shoulder surgery. So I don't know if you want to play him like really ride him. If you like let's say what Montreal does or used to do with Carey Price, where he plays like 60 out of 82. Like I don't know if you want to go like that with him. Um, and like he wasn't when he came in. I think Delia was the starter in Rockford his first season, so I'm not sure. Like Lankinen was even in the ECHL for a while. Like I think he really stunk it up when he first started uh, with Rockford, and then they eventually called him back up, and um, obviously he is where he is now. But and then he had his World Juniors. um, Fantastic showing, but with that shoulder surgery too, like I don't know if I want to be riding him like that as like a horse. And then too, like I said, you want to get Subban in there eventually. It's been I think 5 games, and surprisingly, Delia is still around. I figured they'd send Delia to Rockford.
I would think that's got to be what's going to happen. Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't because if he's not going to play at all, and he hasn't been dressed since the third game of the season, so like if you're just going to have somebody sit on the taxi squad, I think you'd want it to be someone like a Scott Darling or a Matt Tompkins. But anyway, any other lineup changes that you want to see going into Dallas?
um, I mean,
I'd like to see Reese Johnson get another.
yeah, right. Reese Johnson, I'd like to see in, and then like you said, maybe changing up that Dahan Murphy pairing.
Who? So who? How would you divvy
I
that up?
don't yeah pair up. You put Dahan or with a rookie and Murphy with another rookie. I don't know. I'm trying to think of your veteran defenseman is what Zadorov, Keith,
And
Dahan,
Murphy,
and Murphy,
yeah,
and your rookie defensemen are
Mitchell and
Beaudin and
Beaudin. So you're gonna
Mitchell.
have two vets together for sure.
Yeah, maybe I don't know because Murphy is Dahan. Can you maybe put Zadorov with Murphy? I don't know.
Well, I
So
think that's what they started the season with, wasn't it? Murphy and Zador. Or no, it was Boquist and Zadorov.
yeah, maybe
Murphy as
try
well.
that and try but like you said, because yeah, I feel like maybe Dahan would benefit from a new partner. But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe do. Yeah, I like that. Murphy and Zadorov, and then put Beaudin maybe with Dahan and keep Mitchell with Keith.
So,
Yeah, I agree with that. So with that, Blackhawks fans, that's going to wrap up this game review. We thank you all for listening. We've been getting good response on the channel. The analytics have been very positive, been picking up subscribers. Our watch time is going up. So, again, thank you all for listening. Shout out to our listeners over in Finland and over in Canada. Great to see you guys checking in from across the pond and across the border. Um, and until next game, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and let's go Hawks.
go Hawks.